Welcome back. I want to talk about Finland. And I want to talk about Finland and their team in the Olympics in 2022 because it's going to be very, very unpredictable. And I say that because Finland, unlike Sweden, I have a feeling they'll probably dip into the European leagues for a few players here and there too. And really, there's a reason that teams do this. So we went through this in previous Olympics where teams get named. People are like, wait, why did those players get cut? We've never heard of those players. And it's always players we haven't heard of here in North America. And it very often is just it's familiarity with the national team and their program, or it's familiarity with other line mates slash teammates, because this tournament comes together and ends very, very quickly. You get your practices, you're out there, you get your round robin, and you're done. And so if you have one or two games where you're trying to get to know each other and you don't play very well, you're probably out. So I would not be surprised if Finland dips into the European League, European leagues, KHL and otherwise, and comes out with a few names that aren't on this board. So that is quite possible. The one thing with Finland too is they don't have that depth of really top end talent, although there could be some surprises in these Olympics. So let's take a look at the forward group and who I'm projecting probably makes the top six. Got asterisks next to them. So Mikko Rantanen, I think it's pretty clear he should be in the top six. He should be on a line with Barkov. Makes some sense there, right? And maybe Rope Hintz gets into a pretty prominent role. Sebastian Aho has proven he's a star in the National Hockey League. So those are givens. And then outside of that, Laine should be in the top six if he gets back to being Patrick Laine. Kasperi Kapanen could very well end up in that top six, but Jonas Donskoi showed last year he can score some goals, and Finland wouldn't mind having that. Now, Barkov was on the 2014 team, so was Michael Granlund. So this should make them more likely to make the team and maybe have a prominent role in that this team had bronze in 2014. So Finland is usually one of those countries that you look at, you may not be that impressed with the overall roster when you compare it with others, but boy, did they play the underdog role well. Others, Jesse Puljärvi, who's still developing, a big Olympics, could go a long way to helping him when he returns to the Oilers right after. Elli Tolvanen, excellent second half of the season with Nashville, probably makes the team. This could be a very talented, young, fast team out of Finland. Jani Kuokkanen showed a lot, especially I felt in the second half of the season. I thought he got better as the season went along. Erik Haula, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So there he is. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is Carolina, and I could have worn a Hurricanes hat, but I wanted to wear something that almost matches the logo on the jersey here, Finland jersey. Kotkaniemi, that could be interesting because you could put Kotkaniemi with, say, Capo Kakko, Elli Tolvanen, and call it the bust line, where all three of them have been called busts at certain points in their career, right? And that could be an exciting, fun line to watch. And this is the beauty of putting together a team. Oh, and Teuvo Teravainen probably ends up in a top six spot and probably takes one of the other asterisks away. Teravainen, excellent. Or do you put Teravainen with Kotkaniemi and Aho all in the same line? They'll know each other out of Carolina. And this is where things get really interesting when you're putting together your roster. These guys know each other. How would you like to play together? You got Joel Armia. You've also got Arturi Lehkonen. Maybe you have a fourth line where you have Armia and Lehkonen. You could put them with Kotkaniemi. They know each other from Montreal. So this is where, for them, it's going to be interesting to see which way they go with this. Joel Kiviranta out of Dallas. Kiviranta knows Hintz. You're probably not going to have them on the same line at the NHL level, but do you do it at the Olympics? Because, again, they know each other from playing together in Dallas. Alexei Heponiemi. I don't even have Henrik Borgstrom on the board. I put Leo Komarov on there only because I said at the start that they may go in a direction that we don't expect, and Komarov was an assistant captain of the 2014 team that won bronze. So I know that offensively, Leo Komarov, it's not there. There's nothing there. It doesn't matter if you're putting him on the fourth line. And so for Finland, unlike Canada, US, probably Sweden, where it just looks like all-star teams, this may be a lineup where it looks more like your first, second, third, and fourth line, and they have their defined roles, and they already play them well at the NHL level. And then there's Anton Lundell, who could throw the whole thing out of whack if he is actually ready to become a star in the NHL this year, and if he's ready to go on the international stage and show that he can hang with these guys, right? So Lundell's an interesting one on the Finnish side. Then you get to the blue line where it feels like it's a lot less star-studded than the defense that I showed for Sweden earlier today, but this is still a solid defense. Starting with Miro Hayskinen, who's a star in the NHL at this level already. Rasmus Ristolainen, who, now that he's out of Buffalo, we'll see how things go for him this year, right? Then you've got Esa Lindell, excellent defensive defenseman for the Dallas Stars. There's a lot of Dallas on this team. Juuso Välimäki, who had an up-and-down season for Calgary, but good young defenseman. Markus Nutivaara, Henri Jokiharju, and then you get into the really interesting part, too, because outside of that likely top four, and I'm only saying likely because we don't know, like I said, a European player could end up in here, one that's not in the NHL rosters, not on NHL radar at all. But you've got Sami Vatanen, who was on the 2014 team. You've got Olli Maatta, who was on the 2014 team. Does that give them an edge ahead of, say, Nutivaara, Jokiharju? I've got Olli Juolevi here. Juolevi, while he's still the butt of all the jokes about how he's a bust and everything, and whatever, fine. But Juolevi showed last year in the Canucks roster he can be excellent defensively. He's a really solid shutdown defenseman. So maybe he ends up in a 5-6 role on Team Finland. And Nico Mikkola, who I was impressed with in St. Louis. We'll see if he makes it. And, of course, then you have Ville Heinola, who Winnipeg has brought along kind of slowly, comparatively speaking, with where some of us, myself included, I think he's ready, but we'll see, right? And an Olympic performance could go a long way to getting him more ice time in the NHL when he gets back. The biggest question mark I have when it comes to Finland is, so goaltending, huh? So Tuukka Rask has come out and said he's leaning towards maybe retiring. If he's going to play, he's going to play for Boston, right? So he kind of wants to play. He wants to play for Boston. He'll be a cheap goaltender for them. All this other wonderful stuff. But does Tuukka Rask want to play in the Olympics? So let's just say for a moment that Tuukka Rask says, I'm done at the NHL level. I'm probably finished, so I'm not going to come back this year. Does he say no to Team Finland if they come calling? My guess is he plays. He was on the 2014 team as well. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys here who were all in that 2014 team. It would be tough for Finland not to kind of put some of them in there, maybe all 6, and say, you know what? These are the guys who can lead the youngsters along, right? So if Tuukka Rask isn't the starter, because I would think that if he announces he's going to play, he'll be their starting goalie. But UC Saros is very likely the starter in the event that Tuukka Rask's not going to be the guy. And then you've got other goaltenders in the mix, right? You've got Mikko Koskinen out of Edmonton. You've got Kevin Lankinen out of Chicago. Jonas Korpisalo out of Columbus. And Antti Ranta, who is currently in Carolina with all the rest of the Finnish players. Goaltending is going to be the really fascinating part of this, because if it's Rask and Saros, that's an excellent tandem. If it's Saros and Korpisalo, Saros and Lankinen, that could be interesting too. If it's Saros and Ranta, we'll see. Again, that's where it's interesting, because for me, when I did the Swedish one this morning, I was like, okay, these are the 3. And that's it. It's pretty clear-cut. Those should be the 3 goaltenders. With Finland, I don't feel like it's as clear-cut. And again, a lot of it may depend on what Tuukka Rask decides to do. If he says, yeah, I'll play, I'll wear the Finnish jersey again at the Olympics. And again, I think it's tough for players to turn that down. We're seeing the NHL go to the Olympics because players insisted on it. They absolutely insisted, demanded it. And there were a lot of discussions of whether or not NHL players would just go overseas and play in the Olympics and not care about their NHL contracts at that point. And again, that would have been a nightmare scenario, right? If a player just walked away from his team to go over and represent his country at the Olympics. But there was, at the very least, and I don't think anybody actually would have done it, but there was some discussion about it. So here we are, Finland. And I think, really, in all honesty, they can put together a pretty tough-to-play against team. And I think that's what Finland's going to do. They're going to try to make sure their team is hard to play against, which might rule out some of the younger players. It might rule out some of the faster players. This might be a team that's trying to win 2-1, 1-0 rather than 4-3 and, you know, fast and fancy free and all that. But it's going to be interesting to see what tactic they employ when they put this team together, because they want to beat Sweden. Isn't that the whole point of Finland Sweden is to beat one another, right? That seems to be the way it goes. So that's why I did a video previewing both rosters today. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And let me know who you think is going to get in there. And again, there could be names that aren't even on this board that end up on that team, because it is tough to predict. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.